Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty big, a story that's really making waves in rugby circles.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking at the South African Rugby Union, SARU, and what looks like a dramatic, almost unexpected U-turn.
Regarding hosting the 2035 Men's Rugby World Cup, right?
Exactly. Our mission today is to really unpack this. It all stems from a report in Rappaport, suggesting SARU is now talking seriously with World Rugby.
So we need to dig into what this actually means, the history, the hurdles, the whole international picture.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating mix of ambition and, let's be honest, some pretty significant financial question marks.
Okay, got it. And before we really dive into those nuts and bolts, the usual housekeeping, remember to subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you find your deep dives.
Yep, hit that button so you don't miss out.
Right. So let's start with the surprise factor here, because early this year, 2025, SAR was very clear.
Quite categorical.
They basically said, look, financially, we just can't compete to host the Rugby World Cup anymore.
It felt like a real line in the sand moment, didn't it? Like the global economics had just moved beyond them, perhaps for quite a while.
Yeah, priced out. That was the feeling.
And now, just a few months down the line, we're hearing about active talks with World Rugby for 2035. It's dramatic.
It makes you wonder, has something fundamentally shifted? Or is this maybe SAR just testing the waters, seeing if World Rugby might be flexible on the financial side?
Could be a bit of both. Maybe exploring a more creative, cost-effective model, perhaps.
Possibly. And when you think about why they'd want to get back in the game so badly, it has to connect back to their history, right?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
You got to put this 2035 idea in that historical context.
South Africa last hosted. Gosh, 30 years ago now, 1995.
And what an event that was. Hugely successful, obviously, but more than that. It was genuinely a nation-defining moment.
Iconic. Francois Pienaar lifting that trophy.
Exactly. That memory, that legacy, it creates this incredible internal drive, pressure almost, to host again.
And it definitely creates a global sense that South Africa can put on an unforgettable show.
No doubt. But we also can't ignore the more recent history. That 2023 bid loss, that must still sting.
Right? They were right there, weren't they? Very much in the running.
They really were. Put forward a strong, passionate bid, and then France just swooped in and won it pretty dramatically at the end.
And that wasn't about passion or having the stadiums, was it? It felt more about the politics, the financial clout?
Pretty much, yeah. The competitive bidding landscape and the sheer financial muscle other nations could bring, it really highlights how tough this is.
Especially when money talks so loudly. Which brings us right back to the main hurdle now, doesn't it? The money. That Rappaport story, it was clear. Talks might be happening, but
the big question mark remains.
Yeah.
Will the South African government actually step up? Will they provide the financial backing the guarantees needed?
That's the absolute core issue.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because, when World Rugby chooses a host, they're taking on huge risks themselves. Infrastructure, ticket sales, commercial stuff.
They need solid guarantees, not just promises, legally binding ones.
Exactly. To protect themselves against losses and just to make sure everything's actually ready. Stadiums, transport, the lot.
So when SAR stepped back earlier this year, they were basically saying, we can't get that government guarantee.
That seemed to be the message, yes.
So the million-dollar question, or maybe billion-dollar question is, what's changed? Politically, economically, just a few months later?
It's hard to say for sure from the outside. Maybe the political calculation shifted. The prestige, the potential economic boost from hosting.
Yeah.
Maybe that now looks more appealing.
Especially if World Rugby might be willing to, adjust the requirements slightly for certain markets.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Or, and this seems quite likely, SARA might be working on a really creative financial package, trying to share the risk, maybe phase the spending differently.
But until that government guarantee is public, signed, sealed, delivered.
It's still a big if, isn't it? More of a hope than a certainty right now.
Definitely. Discussing a bid is one thing. Having the cash locked down is another entirely. Okay. Let's shift focus a bit. Look at the bigger picture. Because whether SARU gets that funding or not, the race itself is now officially on.
Yep. World Rugby literally just opened the bidding process for 2035, announced in London this past week.
And SARU wouldn't be alone if they did throw their hat in the ring.
Not at all. We already know Japan is in, and they're a serious contender.
They hosted 2019, which was widely seen as brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic. Set a really high bar for organization, the fan experience, everything. And crucially, they bring that financial stability that World Rugby values.
So Japan's a strong frontrunner from the get-go.
Definitely.
Okay, so for you listening, tracking this whole thing, it's important to know this isn't a quick decision. World Rugby has laid out a pretty detailed timeline.
Yeah, it's quite structured. It all culminates quite a way off, actually November 2027. So SARU has time, but there are definite milestones along the way.
What does that look like, roughly?
Well, it starts almost immediately. October this year is when countries need to formally say, yes, we're interested.
Okay, step one.
Then 2026 is mostly about paperwork. Submitting these incredibly detailed questionnaires, everything from stadiums and transport to budgets and, crucially, those government guarantees again.
Right, the proof.
Then, late 2026 into early 2027, it gets physical. World Rugby teams go out, do facility visits, feasibility checks.
Kicking the tires, basically.
Pretty much. Checking if the plans match the reality on the ground. Across the whole country, not just the venues.
And all that work leads to?
A big moment. In May 2027, that's when World Rugby is scheduled to identify their preferred host. It's not the final vote, but it's the official nod, the recommendation.
The final hurdle before the actual decision.
Exactly. And then the grand finale, the actual decision by the World Rugby Council, is set for November 2027.
Wow. Okay, so it's a long road. This news about SARU engaging is like the starting gun, but it's a proper 2-year marathon?
Precisely.
Okay, that timeline's really helpful. Now, before we dig into the sort of strategic tension here, let's do our midpoint check-in. We really want to hear what you think about this potential bid. Should SARU go for it, despite the financial questions? Can that history outweigh Japan's modern appeal? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, definitely share your thoughts.
And of course, if you haven't subscribed to Rugby Obsession yet, now's the perfect time. Hit subscribe.
So, thinking about that bigger picture, World Rugby's strategy is key here. Their chair, Brett Robinson, made some interesting comments about 2035.
What did he say?
Well, he talked about the Rugby World Cup, quote, fueling the growth and sustainability of the sport. That's the baseline, the economic driver.
Makes sense.
But then he specifically called 2035 a, quote, major opportunity to unlock new audiences and additional value, while still, inspiring and uniting the world through rugby.
Okay, unlock new audiences and additional value. That sounds potentially challenging for an established nation like South Africa.
Well, that's the core tension, isn't it? If your main goal is unlocking new audiences, maybe you look towards markets that aren't already saturated with rugby passion.
Like the USA getting a tournament. Or like Japan, offering huge commercial potential in Asia.
Exactly. Japan fits that new audiences, additional value brief quite neatly. South Africa, on the other hand?
They guarantee passion, massive crowds, unity, emotion, history. They nail the inspire and unite part instantly.
Absolutely, no question. But do they unlock significant new audiences or substantial additional value compared to, say, going somewhere completely fresh or a massive growing economy?
That's the strategic dilemma for World Rugby. Proven emotional powerhouse versus potentially higher growth, newer territory.
Precisely. South Africa offers that guaranteed, incredible atmosphere built on decades of history. The financial side is the worry. Japan offers smooth, modern delivery in a key growth region, hitting that new audience's target bang on.
So SARU's job over these next 2 years
is to convince World Rugby that South Africa's legacy, its history and passion, is actually the best route to long-term growth and value. They need to show their established market still has massive untapped commercial potential.
So, summing it up, SARU's playing the history card, the undeniable global passion for the Springboks, but they're up against these really big financial questions.
And those questions put them in direct conflict, potentially, with World Rugby's focus on commercial expansion into new areas. They need the financial guarantees, yes, but also a narrative that World Rugby finds irresistible.
It's like tradition versus transformation played out in bids and budgets.
A fascinating battle ahead, balancing history, passion, and cold, hard cash. Whoever makes the most compelling case wins 2035.
Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over as this whole bidding saga unfolds. We heard Brett Robinson talk about unlocking new audiences and value. World Rugby clearly has an eye on expansion. So how does a traditional rugby giant like South Africa, a nation that brings guaranteed passion, huge crowds, incredible history, but maybe fewer strictly new eyeballs, how do they square their undeniable strengths with World Rugby's clear mandate for global commercial growth?
That's the tightrope they have to walk, isn't it? Balancing their powerful legacy with the future direction of the game's finances.
It's going to be fascinating to watch how they navigate that over the next 2 years. A really complex dynamic.
Definitely.
Okay, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for exploring these sources with us. To stay right across every development in the race for the 2035 Rugby World Cup, make sure you are subscribed to Rugby Obsession. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.